All right. Thank you so much. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Morningstar. As Steve mentioned, my name is Michelle Malcolm. I'm very excited to be here today. I'm going to speak about positive influence, what it is, why it is especially important as a product marketer, and the things that I'm doing to achieve it. But before I get into that, I encourage you to look at this very reflective photo of me as a baby. I was hoping this could lighten up the room, given that it's lunchtime, and I'm sure everyone is hungry. So please enjoy, and I will tell you about myself in 15 seconds to start the presentation. I'm a mother of 2 boys. I'm incredibly type A. I've made my way to financial services by way of consumer packaged goods. In the advertising world, formerly an account manager in advertising. And I think it's important to note that I love meeting people through involvement in industry events. I also just like meeting people just about anywhere. I met some lovely InfoSec ladies at the back earlier today at the water cooler, so I look forward to networking with all of you after this, today, tomorrow. I've been in the financial services industry about 15 years, working at CME Group, working at E-Trade, before my current role of overseeing global marketing here in terms of the licensed data business offering at Morningstar, as Steve mentioned. Last of all, I like gin martinis, so now you know everything there is to know about me, including that I'm very candid. So with that in mind, let's get into it. All right, so I'm a firm believer that influence is one of the most important ingredients that we can have in our toolkit to being a successful product marketer. Good influence, that is. We all know influence is about having kind of an effect on behaviors, attitudes, opinions, choices of others. But I'm here today to talk about positive influence. And my belief is that it has more layers. It's harder to achieve, so it's certainly worth taking another look at today. So the interesting part is that we may have not considered positive influence. It's not only about an external display of actions or emotions. Rather, I think it's something that starts internally. From my perspective, the crux of it is that the more self-aware that we are, the easier it is for each of us to get things done in our roles, because there is a greater chance that people actually want to work with us. My whole presentation builds on this concept. So why does this matter? I don't think I have to tell you that the role of a product marketer, while certainly energizing, exciting, rewarding, it's actually pretty complex, right? We're being challenged to deliver tactics and levers to achieve strategic targets while also facing several different internal dependencies that cross multiple different business units as well. So at the end of the day, our ability to gain buy-in from these groups by facilitating trust, it's really where we win, right? So positive influence can actually be the key to enable us to accelerate the achievement across matrixed organizations of any size. So the good news is that from my experience, I think it's possible to cultivate positive influence regardless of your personality. Doesn't matter if you're loud, if you're quiet, if you're bubbly, if you're more serious. I've done some soul searching to kind of nail down the things that I'm doing in hopes that you might be able to find inspiration from some of these things as well. So my approach to creating positive influence, what I'm working on, kind of falls in 3 areas you see across the screen right now. The first is really finding value in my role and how I do that. The second thing that I'm going to cover today is really creating those relationships that matter. And as the presentation closes, I'm going to spend a few moments talking about how to be true to yourself in the workplace and how that doesn't necessarily always mean what all of us think. So let me dive into these areas candidly for you to showcase how they have helped me generate forward momentum in my career. But to be clear, I'm still working on all of these things myself. So I think it's a really healthy thing to be in work in progress. I invite all of you to adapt that attitude as well. So what do I mean by finding value? Well, it's safe to say that I'm not curing a disease, unfortunately, by deploying financial services marketing campaigns. But for that specific reason, I think it's incredibly important for me, and maybe for you after you hear me talk today, to determine ways that I can connect myself to something bigger, something more personal. So what am I even talking about? What do I do to achieve that? I'm going to highlight one area today. So simply put, I challenge myself to really, really deeply learn about the audiences that I target. I've always liked observing people. I've always liked meeting people, learning who they are, uncovering their story. And I find this process really exciting and very engaging. So I started to kind of replicate this approach within a work setting and realized that it propelled me forward in kind of a new way. So it really doesn't matter if you are marketing Flintstones vitamins to soccer moms, which I've done, or you're marketing a Treasury futures contract to a hedge fund portfolio manager, which I've also done. At the end of the day, all marketing is just about people, right? And that's the way I really think about the clients and the prospects that I target. We're all just changing minds by getting to know our clients and our prospects and really what they need. Whether you realize this or not, we're actually all doing this every day, right? To do things like make new friends or meet new people, so why not reuse this skill in the workplace? So where do I start with this? Within each new role that I'm in, I start with the creation of a customer role grid. I'd be happy to share samples of this with anyone after, but I map out roles that I'm going to target with my campaigns and really dive very deeply into why we're targeting them, what kind of titles we can expect. Sometimes I even spend a lengthy amount of time on LinkedIn really diving into who these people are and what they actually visibly look like. This not only anchors me and enables me to kind of find purpose, but I think it also sends a signal to my stakeholders that I'd like to be part of the revenue equation, right? Because this establishes a common language with them to have a seat at the table. Another point I make on this slide is that I think it's much more fun to deliver campaigns to people that I feel like I know because it's, once again, more personal. So just think about that for a little bit. So looking back, I wanted to share some excerpts from a client-facing focus group that I hosted when I was at CME Group. I highlight this because this was one of the most memorable kind of turning points in my career when everything became more human and more personal to me, and therefore more exciting. We interviewed clients in front of the entire team about our marketing strategy. Obviously, the feedback isn't great on here, but it's amazing what can happen when you start to pay attention and dive deeply into what clients need and start to translate that into your strategy. In my experience, this results in greater connection for your clients and for yourself. We're doing a lot of this at Morningstar today, which is very exciting, it's very rewarding, and it's very energizing for me personally. So as I move into the next section, I wanted to share that while I was kind of pulling my thoughts together for this presentation, I realized something really interesting. As marketers, we think a lot about the output, obviously, right? That makes sense. We think a ton about what our clients are going to see, what are these deliverables going to look like. But I think the ironic part is that developing this output requires a ton of internal collaboration first. I think sometimes people forget this part. So let's talk about how we can kind of make that experience a little bit easier to connect with people as effectively as we possibly can by seeing eye to eye with them. So I think the important thing that I have learned is that each function has its own approach to achieving success. I think this is something that is overlooked occasionally. So what I mean by this is that it's obviously very common for people to have the same goal they're working towards, right, across multiple different functions, product marketing being one of them. But I think it's important to realize that we all have different roles, We all have different personalities, and therefore, we're all going to take different paths to achieving that goal. And it's important to understand that path to gauge how to interact with someone to work together, right? So how do we figure out what path someone is going to take to achieve their goals, right? To me, this process is really about empathy. Understanding people's motivations, their needs, and their personality. It's crucial, right, to having this dialogue. My belief is that by meeting people where they are and being sensitive to what and how they are trying to achieve, we actually give ourselves a better chance of being heard. And really, we're all just trying to be heard, right? So that we can communicate what we need from each other. The last thing I'll say on this slide is that if you don't know what's important to a key stakeholder of yours, it's okay to ask them. I ask a lot of questions. I see my team here. Thanks for your patience. But I think asking questions to understand what your stakeholders want and how they're achieving their goals is one of the most crucial pieces to this equation, right? So as a very type A person, as I mentioned earlier, I kind of documented a lot of checklists, which I'll share throughout this presentation. I kind of documented a list of things that I do to ensure that I'm operating in a really self-aware way to influence others and to, in turn, be heard. You'll notice that I continue to reiterate how important it is to know kind of how you add value and where, right? And the priorities of the people that you're working with. Just making sure that's right. I think it's always healthy to be really evolving to be a better partner, especially when you're in a product marketing role, because of the sheer number of people that we have to interact with daily. So I'm going to close this presentation today by talking a few minutes about authenticity. And this is my favorite part. Right off the bat, I'll start by saying that my belief is authenticity in the workplace, I think, is very misunderstood. So despite what people say, I would argue that it's really not totally about bringing your whole self to work. I'd like to slightly challenge this preconceived notion, so come with me on this. Let me explain a little bit more. So I'd say that from my perspective, authenticity is about speaking honestly, yet respectfully, and the key is respectfully, and I'll come back to that, to showcase your beliefs on a topic in a way that really aligns with who you are. So I think people miss the importance of respect in this equation. So let me elaborate. My point of view is that to show respect means that you've curated your thoughts enough to deliver information in a way that is considerate towards others. So in essence, you've filtered your full self just a bit to be appropriate in the context of the situation. So given that we're often, as product marketers, the glue between kind of creative and strategy worlds, bringing a lot of different ideas together, we know that we need to master telling people what we really think without offending them in a productive way, right? Working towards a common goal with a ton of different personalities in the play. So let's talk a little bit more about how I specifically go about this. It's another visual checklist for you. So how do I really identify who I am in the workplace? I know that sounds crazy. I kind of feel like a therapist. So I think, first of all, being your true self in an appropriate dose for work takes work. I work on this one every day. So becoming more self-aware and understanding how we operate takes time. It takes observation. So I would say, start by paying attention to the things that make you excited and happy in the workplace and things that frustrate you and have the opposite effect. I started documenting those things and to try to find patterns from those lists to better understand myself. Once again, this sounds like a very self-aware, therapy-based approach. I'm fine with that. I think working on yourself and understanding how you process information in the workplace is a crucial step to this entire equation. I would then encourage you to all think a little bit more about what makes you unique, how your special traits, how your superpowers can add value. Capitalizing on that will once again make you happier, more engaged, and then link back to that positive influence that is kind of bringing this whole presentation together today, right? So I know as well, some of you may cringe when you see kind of personal brand on this slide. Well, I think a personal brand is a really powerful thing. I think it helps to showcase the strengths and the value that you bring and making sure that people know that. And then, well, simple, the last two things that I kind of point out on here go hand in hand with being your true self, admitting when you mess up, and listen a lot so that you can hear what people are asking for and you can respond in a truthful, honest way with respect. So I covered a couple of topics today. I wanted to keep it brief but very meaningful. And I will say that, I'm hopeful that you'll find that developing that deeper connection with who you're actually targeting, building those empathetic relationships, and really knowing your superpowers and how they can add value will help you create that positive impact that will move your career forward. With that, I'm going to wrap, and I will say that I am continuing to work on these things every day and will for the remainder of my career. And thank you so much for your time.
Michelle, thanks so much.
Yeah.
We have some time for questions if anyone has any questions on the presentation.
It's a little different topic, so I welcome.
All right, good. Let's make it hard. A really hard question would be great.
Hello.
Hi. What's your name?
My name is Ryan. I'm from Morningstar. What's your personal brand and what makes you unique?
Oh, man.
Practice what you preach there.
Yeah. I pride myself on being a very authentic person with a lot of grit. So I think that you will see my passion coming through in everything that I do, for better or for worse. That's something I believe that really shines through in all the work that I do. I care a lot about what I deliver, and I very, very deeply enjoy getting to kind of educate myself about our clients. So I would say that I am someone who is very passionate and very thorough. Those are the things that I think would define me and my personal brand.
That's true.
I love the verification real time. That's great. We got some Slido questions for you too, Michelle. So, what's an example of a time you used this on a particularly difficult stakeholder?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I always remind myself that we're all people. So what I try to do is take a step back, practice my empathy kind of button, and understand, listen, who is this person? What are they really trying to do? What is bothering them? What could they be concerned about? What is keeping them up? Right? So I try to empathize with the pain points they might be experiencing. That always helps me to kind of level set and to also gauge how I interact with them. So if someone seems like they are struggling through a particular area, is not feeling in the best spirits, or is really pissed off about something, I shoot it to them pretty straight. I don't try to sugarcoat it. I don't try to bring 17 slides. I come and I talk to them as a person and say, listen, I'm thinking I'm seeing this. Is this true? Can we work on it together? So I would say I try to see eye to eye with them. I try to understand their situation and things that might be bothering them. I validate what those things are before I start trying to solve the problem together with them.
I mean, a little different take on this. So let's say that relationship has soured. Any different approach you'd take?
The only thing that I would change, I would definitely kind of, once again, come at it from a very humble, unassuming place, really considering who that person is and what they care about the most. And then, if appropriate, sometimes I rely on my peers and people that might know the person particularly well and try to get some guidance from others who have had a good track record of connecting with someone that's particularly hard to deal with, to understand how they dealt with good or bad situations as well. So kind of drawing some learnings from historical experience if I can as well. Often that helps if I know people don't respond if it's a Zoom call and they'd much rather have you sit with them for 10 minutes and talk in person.
Yeah. You had mentioned a tool that you use, that the grid, the customer role grid.
Yeah.
Will you make that available?
Sure.
People? Okay.
Sure. I did that when I first started at Morningstar as well, and it really helped because I wasn't sure exactly, the ins and the outs of the customers or their products yet. So I really always try to start by educating myself first on who we're targeting in a deep way, and it helped me kind of participate in our strategy development, for example, and I actually knew what I was talking about, so that was delightful.
Awesome. All right, there are some introverts among us, and I feel that way a lot of times, honestly. What is the magic secret to being influential across all departments, especially ones that you have nowhere to go?
Authority over?
Authority over, thank you, Eric.
I mean, you need to have a different approach for each department. So I'd say customizing how you interact with different departments is crucial. So product managers are not going to want the same information as the chief marketing officer. For example, he's going to want a little bit of a different cut that's more focused on how are things performing, why, what are the 5 things you learned. Product managers are going to want a little bit more tactical insight because they have more skin in the game and help develop the product or the tool that you're talking about. So, really understanding what your engagement solution is, what's your approach going to be for each team based on what they care about, who they are, and then how they're looking to achieve their OKRs or their goals.
And then, great question. When you see that table being full, or that appears to be full, how do you find the seat? How do you earn your way or work your way into that seat? First question up top.
When the table appears full, let me find a seat. Oh, hypothetically full. I get what you're saying. Okay, yes. So I would say there's always room for people who know their information cold. End of story. Like, I would say, and whoever asked that question, I'm happy to talk with you after, but honestly, like, I have been mostly in roles at CME Group, at E-Trade. Tables were full, only with men. Literally, like there were literally no seats left and figuratively no seats left. And I proved that I was able to understand the clients very, very deeply, understand the products very, very deeply. I use Salesforce, I use other tools to educate myself and learn the business so that I could then establish that common language and prove that I deserve to sit at the table with them, if that makes sense. So I would say no one can argue with you if you know what you're talking about.
It's a lot harder to, that's for sure. So, no, I think that's great advice. When you look at the things you were talking about today, some of the areas that you have found success, customer stories, big part of what we do in product marketing. Any interesting tips about how to go about finding customer stories?
Well, that's a great question. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes finding clients to talk to is hard. Sometimes it's easy. There are a couple different formats and ways to do this. I'd say, personally, the easiest way that I've done this is attend customer calls and meetings and actually become friends with the customers myself. So that's, for example, how I gleaned that feedback at CME Group, and I'm still friends with a lot of those customers today. And really making that bond myself by proving that I know the business. Kind of everything builds on top of each other, really, that I'm talking about. But proving that I know the business enough for the sales team to trust me, for them to say, I can take you on a call, and then building a relationship with the clients. We also have a couple of different programs and partners that we work with to conduct interviews. Those can sometimes be easy to hard depending on who the target audience is. Some audiences are easier from a response rate to get a hold of than others. But I'd say the best way that I've done it is partner with sales myself and make a relationship and then convince someone to come in for like a glass of wine or something. Honestly, that's what I did.
It goes a long way.
So.
One tactical thing that I've found too, if anyone uses Gong, we use Gong at PitchBook and at Morningstar to record all of our sales conversations. So you can go look at the transcripts, do some searches on unstructured data to find out the things you're looking for in those customer stories, and it gives you a good place to start to at least reach out to those clients. Really great tool, Gong, if you haven't used it. No affiliation, just helped us a lot. So Let's see. Let's take one more.
Yeah.
Can you provide an example where you're authentic but respectful about work from a peer that you needed but didn't meet your standards? This one right here.
Yeah, I mean, I think, once again, the key is really knowing when to curate your personality. I think, I mean, it's kind of, hopefully, somewhat obvious that I kind of have sometimes a very big personality, which can be fun, but also like detrimental, so I'm working on it. But I would say that I think that knowing who I am from an internal perspective and understanding how I operate at work, that has really helped me so that I can give better feedback and understand, okay, I'm usually loud in these settings. This other person I'm talking to may operate a certain way and has this personality. Okay, based on my knowledge of that, I think that I need to deliver my feedback in this specific way. So it's really like thinking about that equation of, okay, how am I being perceived? Who am I in the workplace? How do I need to deliver feedback so it's thoughtful, respectful, but also curated? So I really think about how much do I need to curate what I'm saying. I usually approach it in a somewhat casual way. I'm kind of a casual kind of speaker, and so I kind of say, hey, listen, like, I have a couple of questions about this. Would you mind sitting down with me? I would love to get your perspective, and also, if you're open to it, can I give you, 2 pieces of feedback? Curious if you feel the same way. So almost making it a dialogue instead of kind of telling someone that I didn't like something. I feel like there's always, two ways, different parts of a story, so we should be considerate and open in the way that we approach people.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Great stuff. Thank you, Michelle.
Cool. Thank
Appreciate it.
you.